The NDC press conference was held by a man who was a chairman of a state corporation, Boadu Authority, awarded to himself contracts and now fancies himself as corrupt enough to be considered as running mates. He wants to be running mates to a candidate who 1 week before leaving office signed off 75% of Ghana's bauxite to his younger brother's company. For such a party to accuse the NPP of running family and friends government is very curious. Ibrahim Ahmed's company, Eston Cubic Group, carried out, according to its own reports, a well-defined systematic exploration drilling over the entire Nyinahini bauxite ore deposit, and determined that good grade bauxite exists on the hill 1, 2, 3, 6A, 6B, 7, and 8. The report confirmed a total of mineable bauxite resources in the concession to be 792 million metric tons out of the total mineral resources on all the hills. It's approximately 912 million metric tons. That is the total metric tons on the hill is 912. He alone surveyed and saw that is capable of mining 792 out of the 912 metric, about 75%. The plan was to build a refinery. Assuming Eston Cubic Company went ahead to build a refinery, John Mahama's brother will have been entitled to Ghana's resources valued at $180 billion of refined bauxite. That is the alumina, not even aluminium. Thankfully, the people of this country changed the course. And he had the effrontery to even challenge the decision of government not to give this deposit of bauxite in the hands of the brother of the president. Our courts turned down or rejected his plea before the courts. We very well might have witnessed in the timing of the two speeches by the hand of God. I believe that God's love for Ghana allowed us this moment to be able to do a side-by-side comparison of a serious speech that has already changed Ghana and a content-free, values-free, that threatens to undo all the gains we have made in the effort to become a law-abiding country. It is good that the NDC responded appropriately at that time, and that gives us the opportunity to judge them, put it side by side against that of the president. I dare say, if the NDC had realized beforehand the import of the president's speech on Monday, they will have revised their dates and their speech itself substantially. But let me also say that there was probably very little they could do, because that is their stock in trade. Ladies and gentlemen, this is significant because the two speeches offer a clear opportunity to wear not only the parties potential messages ahead of election 2020, but also the methods likely to be adopted by either the New Patriotic Party and the NDC as they persuade the Ghanaian electorate to entrust them with the mandate in the election. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, it is for the people of Ghana to carefully weigh these two positions. Leaderships and opinion leaders across Ghana are invited to dispassionately review the president's positions on corruption, its impact, and beyond that, the actual fight he is leading, based on the principles he espouses and respects, and the actions he takes on the basis of those principles. Let's remind ourselves again what these vital nation-building principles are: respect for the rule of law, transparency in governance, including qualitative media space, investment in accountability, and discipline. Fair-minded Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude, I have no doubt that the NDC speech was a tasteless and unappetizing soup full of innuendos, character smearing, vague suppositions, and no solutions. The NDC speech of Tuesday does reflect their ethos and principles that has been rejected by the Ghanaian people. It is a shame that this message does not seem to have sunk in for the NDC. It is a shame that this does not seem to have sunk in for the NDC, I repeat. I suppose if you have been doing the same unimaginative and destructive thing for the past 27 years, the longest any single entity has ruled our nation Ghana since independence, it is difficult to switch gears. It's been their stock in trade for 27 years. It will be difficult for them to switch gears and come up with truly innovative thinking and action. As they say, it is difficult to teach old dogs new tricks. This is a party that is too weighed down by its own poor history. But we can't afford to let this poor history become Ghana's destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, not having anything concrete and future-looking to offer, it will seem that the NDC game plan merely aims at repeating loudly and very often a mantra of corruption, with the president's name laddered into every sentence in the hope of getting that image to stick in not only the Ghanaian people, but also, more importantly, to try to influence the outcome of independent surveys, especially foreign source surveys, as a way of vindicating their non-existent approach to fighting corruption in this country. In sum, whilst the president acknowledges the presence of corruption, past and present, and demonstrates concrete steps towards sustainable, lasting solutions, the NDC prefers smoke and mirror, shouting as loudly as possible in the unrealistic hope of gaining doubtful political capital. I think this strategy is clear. If you remember, towards 2008 election, the NDC put together names of senior members of the New Patriotic Party and list monies that they have in banks, which in total is more than the total resources of even United States of America. And they managed to get unsuspecting citizens of our country to believe in that. I believe that the time is up for this game. It is important that they notice that and be able to join. If not contribute, they should keep quiet to listen to long-lasting solution to this canker that has bedeviled this country as a result of their rule over the years and their indulgence in corruption over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, the president has spoken clearly and eloquently, and dare to say that speaking eloquently too is a problem for the NDC. I don't expect anything better than that. That our president speaks eloquently, and that too is a problem for them. They call it acquired assent. That's why we all went to school anyway. We couldn't have carried our grandfather's accent to modern day politics, and it's important that that is acknowledged, that it is a problem for the NDC. In a historic first in Ghana, the president directs our attention to the passage of 2 pieces of legislation with stiff sentences in 2 areas of our national discipline: political vigilantism and illegal small-scale mining. Even as we enter an era characterized by this fresh legislation, the NDC are busily exhibiting crass violence in their ongoing primaries, as you all saw, in a bid to suppress democratic processes. It is well known and unarguably that the NDC superintended the explosion of Galamsey. We challenge them to come out with their policy position about the future of Galamsey, following the passage of the legislation by the NPP government. Under the bold and courageous leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Ghana will achieve a clean mining regime capable of sustaining the environment and incomes for the future. In pursuit of checks and balances, ladies and gentlemen, which is the constitutional way of ensuring transparency and accountability in government, the president has assured consistent and increasing financial support to the independent institutions of state, mandated to ensure transparency and accountability of the executive arm of government. The judiciary, parliament, SHRAG, and others, including the police and other security agencies, have all received increased budget allocations year on since 2017. These institutions are on the move towards better fulfillment of their mandates. The magic to doing this is to have a functional, growing economy that creates the physical space for these vital social investments. The NPP, in doing this, has achieved something that wasn't possible under an NDC administration, that recklessly brought growth down to below 3% and thereby jeopardized resources to all state agencies and programs. The IMF reports are publicly available. It took or inherited a government from the New Patriotic Party with a growth rate of close to 8.3%. You ended up in 8 years leaving us with 3.7%. And it is so strange. They did same from 1980 to the year 2000 when they were leaving. The total size of our economy was $4 billion. For 19 years that they ran this country, they left us with the same $19 billion. These are the people we are talking about. Again, the president has spoken. He has spoken loudly and clearly on corruption and its elimination. First and foremost, his commitment is to the rule of law as the only legitimate and viable means of conquering systemic corruption in this country. No amount of short-term mudslinging and exaggerated claims of corruption being leveled at every incidence of mishap in government can sway his resolve to be impartial, firm, and focus on institutional means of fighting corruption. That is the only way. The only way is to make sure that institutions of states that have responsibility of ensuring that we are capable and able and in a sustainable manner fight corruption is strengthened. And the president is ready to do that and continue to do that. The NDC sends mixed signals. Any action taken drives them to demand even more extreme action. Per their approach, the president should be judge and executioner on no evidence other than their politically motivated screams of corruption. The president should be the judge and the executioner because they are screaming This is a president that is known for the respect of human rights of all citizens, not only Ghanaians, but all humanity. This country has suffered different attempts at corruption elimination. The most violent and arbitrary measures occurred under the stewardship of the NDC in some of its previous guises. That did not and has not prevented NDC functionaries themselves, much more other culpable Ghanaians, from engaging in acts of corruption. The documented history in this regard is long and detailed. Indeed, the NDC's superior craftsmanship of state-sponsored corruption was well described in a pithy way by the phrase create, loot, and share. We saw in this time infamous judgment debts or debt schemes where monies were deliberately budgeted in order to create judgment debts, loot the budgeted monies, and share the looted monies. By any standards, ladies and gentlemen, this conduct can be called so depraved that it might even delegitimize the NDC as a credible party capable of carrying out a change mission for Ghana. Now the president says otherwise. So what has he done? Apart from increased budget allocation to the relevant agencies, he has fulfilled a major campaign promise to take the incumbent political influence out of corruption or out of the control of the incumbent by swiftly establishing office of the special prosecutor. And almost everybody in this country agreed that it is a major step in strengthening our resolve to stem the tide of corruption. And by the choice of the president is also exemplary. It is only the NDC that doesn't believe that the choice of the president, Martin Amidu, is correct. Apart from NDC, no, everybody in this country was very, very happy. Mixed public reviews notwithstanding, the provisions of security of tenure and independence prosecutorial action that the Office of the Special Prosecution enjoys is a fundamental leap forward in putting corruption under control within the rule of law. Giving time, resources, and focused leadership, the likelihood of the Office of the Special Prosecutor leading the fight against corruption can be said to be very high, thanks to the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for this wonderful, courageous action and position he has taken. The President, ladies and gentlemen, has also spearheaded and championed the passage of other legislation that, given time, will revolutionize the framework and environment for fighting corruption across board. The Right to Information Act, 17 years in the making of this law, has now been signed by the fearless and courageous Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I remember as far back as 2008, the now minority leader was at the neck of the New Patriotic Party government that initiated the law, forcing the government to pass the law. They were in power for 8 years. We came to meet the law as it is. It is the fearless Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who courageously has passed the law. And this is an important step in strengthening the fight against corruption. Following on the repeal of the criminal libel law, the president is perhaps the Ghanaian leader who has done the most to empower the Fourth Estate as a viable partner in the fight against corruption. And I was amazed when the General Secretary of the NDC tried to lure you, the media, to let you believe that they are the friends of the media. We've been in this country They even went ahead and ship-bombed most media houses that were against them. They criminalizes your speech. They did a lot. Some of you went to jail for a very long time. Don't be deceived by sheeps in lions in sheep clothing. Don't be deceived at all. Indeed, significant opinion has it that the passage of State Interest and Governance Acts is already bearing fruits in the rush of recent resignations from some public enterprises or organizations, as quality standards expose inexperience and lack of technical skills. The Supreme Court ruling on appointment to state institutions is being respected and is expected to lead to even stronger public cooperation or public corporate governance, thereby relieving the nation of gratuitous report of public malfeasance. The president has said it, and it is verifiable, that about 21 officials of the last government are on trial for allegations amounting to over 700 million Ghana cedis. True to his stance on the rule of law, the president says these officials have a right to due process and they are enjoying their day in courts. It is in the same vein that the president has referred and will continue to refer matters of alleged corruption involving his appointees to the relevant agencies, which have the duty and mandate to go through due process, as well in respect of those appointees. People cannot be hanged because the NDC screams so. Indeed, the screaming ruins reputations, sometimes irrevocably, but the right thing must be done. Everybody deserves his or her day in court on any accusation. Cases properly investigated by capable agencies and tested in the impartial judicial proceedings. That is the best way of fighting corruption, and the NPP will support the president to fight even harder. The NDC have no record to compare all these that I've stated above. They have no record, none to compare. No record at all. And we expect that they will be thinking and knowing that the Ghanaian people are wide awake. They have no record, I repeat. They have no record. They accuse the president with a vague notion of state capture, hinting at some of the president's appointees being from his family. I must state that the political lexicon of family and friends came from the NDC. It is Phil Gabra who, realizing how the Atamil's government was performing and the kind of cabal, the kind of friends and family members that he has surrounded himself, came out with family and friends. And again, it is Alban Bagwin who also introduced fair weather friends. And these are all attributable to the NDC and not to the New Patriotic Party. That accusation is so puerile. We need not go into family and friends cabals that have run the NDC for years, including but not limited to the former president now. Candidate Mohammed's family, the late President Mills family, the Ahoys, the Chikates, the Moles, the Okrans, the Tetes, the Sawyers, and many others who populated and continue to populate influential spaces within the NDC. But typical of the NDC, Whenever confronted with policy bankruptcy, they resort to lies and propaganda, damaging and unwarranted linkages to ethnicity, false corruption claims, and accusations of nepotism being at the forefront. I can cite few examples of Betty Mood and the husband being part of the NDC administration. The brother was with GMPC from NPA. You can cite the Hannah Tetes and the sister who is now gunning to contest on the ticket of the NDC. We can cite friends like Tony Lita, Oye Lita. The wife was a minister, the husband was head of Ghana Civil Aviation. I can go on and on and on. I think that it is important to note, as I sit here, I don't have large families, and my family members are not part of my political activity. So if I become president, it is only one brother of mine who is technically competent, who can even be part of any administration. I wouldn't. But if you have individuals who have large families, who are competent, who have been part of their struggle over the years, and has been part of the political structure, there's no way anybody can accuse any government of bringing those competent, superior, technically able men and women to be part of his administration. We didn't know any Cardinal Mills or the brothers in our politics. But when President Mills felt that it is important to bring somebody, his brother, who is capable to be part of his administration, he did so, and rightly so. So I think that it is important that we take note of that. The president has spoken again. What have the NDC to say? The NDC cites a list of matters that, in their opinion, is corrupt, with or without due process. And strangely enough, if they cite those issues and competent institutions go into it and even clear the individual, they still list it as part of corrupt activities of government. It's strange. Let us review just their stance on PDS. Lacking courage to privatize ECG, they latch onto the Compact 2, benefiting from the flow through of the success of President Kufuor-led Compact 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we must note that it is because of the good governance of President Kufuor that enabled us to be able to successfully source Compact 1. We implemented it, we left power in 2008, and since then, the only thing the NDC managed to do was be talking about it. But the Compact 1 was flowing from the Compact 2. It is the new Patriotic Party government that came back to be able to source the Compact 2. And strangely enough, the NDC will have tied our hands to give away ECG for 25-year concession, in which only 20% interest was reserved for the Ghanaian people, whilst at the same time signing power production and delivery arrangement far in excess of national needs for the beleaguered ECG. All this without resolving the essential matter of Dumsor. The recklessly incompetent situation in the ECG, or the electricity sector, meant that the government was tied to paying heavily for power for the use of ECG, which was being divested and in the transition without the requisite resources to meet the NDC government commitment. As a matter of international convention, ladies and gentlemen, sanctity of contracts and good relations with our development partners, the NPP government set about cleaning up the electricity sector. Having restored regular power, the terms of the compact were reviewed to reduce the period of concession from 25 years and increase Ghanaian participation to 51%. That's a sample. What that the NDC was going to give was to give a concession to 80% of non-Ghanaian for 25 years. President Nana Addo Dankwa said that it is too much. So he reviewed that contract for 20 years and also insisted that Ghanaian people have a stake. Electricity Company of Ghana, it belongs to Ghana. So we should have Ghanaians taking 51% of the stake in it. And he skillfully negotiated and got it for Ghana. Notwithstanding the NDC refusal to acknowledge the continuing and sensitive role of our development partners in the implementation of the compact, the NPP is confident that the lights will remain on, which implies a fundamental strengthening of the sector under this government. Moreover, the questions surrounding the viability of the operational and financial arrangements driving the compact and its intent behind the concession shall be met in a transparent manner and at the full glare of the public. So far, the doubts and investigatory proceedings to remove the doubts have not only been in public, but have had the support of our development partners. No amount of conspiracy, theorizing will stick in the face of the public processes. The NDC really ought to take my advice and shy away from talks about family and friends. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the NPP invites the public, especially thought leaders, to critically weigh the governance styles of the two political parties and to lead the public crusade for good governance with open government as championed by the president. Everybody must be free or feel free to interrogate government actions. But the NDC campaign of falsehood and mischievous political intent really fails the test of serious and purposeful governance. Today, listening to candidate Mahama, for example, talk about the financial sector in a saintly tone when in his own sessional address to Parliament, he admitted that the irresponsible licensing and poor supervision by his appointed Bank of Ghana leadership that had led to the collapse under his watch is typical of how the NDC works. Smoke and mirror. Let us keep a careful eye on the wolf garbed in sheepskin. That is today's NDC. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, can you help all of us answer one question that has bugged me for more than 4 years now? Where is the report on the Ford expedition that John Mahama received as a bribe from a foreign contractor who managed to win road contracts after he was introduced to the president in 2012? Thank you for your attention.